All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Scenes with Cookeville Lifestyle. And today we have special guest Shan Stout, who is not only the director of tourism for Cookeville, also our latest cover model. Thank
Whoop,
you,
whoop.
Shan, for being here.
Can't believe it. Still can't believe it. What were you thinking? I don't know.
One of our best decisions.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I mean, we were in the meeting and it was a no-brainer. Everybody said Shan.
Yes,
Shan
immediately.
For the cover.
Yeah,
And then I paid everybody. So
That literally took
few
15
thousand.
seconds to decide. No, it really was. It was that long. It was like, we think Shane should be the cover. Yep. Everyone. Yep.
Yep.
It was that fast.
well, understand from my side that when I got the call, and you're like, "Hey, Shan," I thought it was going to be, could you write us an article about, something about waterfalls or this or that, just some normal. How can you contribute to the magazine? And so my brain was in that space, and then you said, we have the most influential people, and we want to include you, and I was like, what? She's wanting me to write something about the most. I was like, doesn't Andrew do that? Like, I was so confused by the whole conversation because I was thinking about what I'm supposed to be contributing, and you're like, no, and you're the cover. Well, I mean, like, there was that long pause you talk about, like time stands still and you don't know how much time elapsed. It felt like 20 minutes elapsed before I answered you because I was like, this can't be real. Like, this cannot be real because I know it's early on in the game for this magazine. Mm-hmm. There are so many more important, more beautiful, more successful, more philanthropic, just more. So many people that are more than I am. And it was... I had to take a minute after the call and just absorb what you said. I thought this maybe they'll back out. Surely they'll back out.
No way. You were the perfect choice.
Absolutely.
And I think everyone that we've pretty much featured feels that way. Mm-hmm. They feel like, oh, somebody else should do it, not me. But those are the people that always deserve the recognition because you do so much.
If somebody out there is thinking that, I'm with you. Unworthy.
I don't think anybody's thinking that.
Unworthy. It's
Shan's
such an
life
honor.
revolves around this community and
Everybody but Shan.
Yes. And it is shown in every single ball she juggles
Yep.
on a daily basis.
It's sweet of you to say, but my thing is I love to contribute. Like, you have something that drives you, and usually it boils down to one sentence, whatever. Some people love to be givers, some people love to serve. I love to contribute. So I'm always looking for the way I can contribute. And
she does
it drives
contribute,
me.
by the way, to every edition. Have you, from day, I think the second.
Once I knew it was a thing, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shan writes all of our nature spotlights.
She's a great writer.
And she's incredible and so knowledgeable about all the places. And Andrew doesn't hardly have to edit it, so it's great.
Well, and let's give Tessa Davis, my right-hand woman at the Visitors
Those
Bureau.
photos.
She not only helps me in the feature, but now the photography and all of that. Just an amazing talent.
She is, and she goes at 5 a.m. sometimes and hikes and takes the photos
sometimes
for us.
4 a.m.
Yep.
More ambitious than I am. I'm not that much of a morning person.
You guys all carry and juggle so much. Tessa also shocks me because she has 7 children or something, and she
6,
also
but
She has
yes.
6, yeah.
every day. She's
Unless you count her husband, so 7. Yeah, you're correct.
Okay, well, still, I am struggling with 2 children, and she is everywhere at everything, working full time, taking photos. How? How do you do it? But you're the same way. I feel like on the weekends, you're with your husband, Mr. Stout, scouting out properties because he's a realtor in town.
Yes.
And you're in Granville with
A lot, yes.
the ladies that knit, help quilting.
And the quilters, yes. The quilters in Granville. I think I am the, Randall Clemens is the honorary mayor of Granville, because he runs everything in Granville, their whole tourism. But I think I'm like the honorary marketing director of Granville because everything, Shan, can you help us with this grant? Shan, can you help us with social? Shan, can you help us do a video for this? So I'm happy to help them. And the nice thing is, part of being a director of tourism, I can work across the Upper Cumberland and help support all these places because Cookeville is the hub where people stay.
Right.
So they're coming here to stay in our hotels, our Airbnbs, all the places, visit our restaurants. We are the hub, but we have to throw them out to all the things they're going to do. If they're going to be here a week, They're not just going to do everything in Cookeville. They're going to go out to all these places. So supporting the Upper Cumberland has been a wonderful part of my job.
And I've learned so much, and you probably have too, just from the articles they write.
Yeah. Oh,
about
absolutely.
Different places.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I've got to work with Shan and Tessa a lot. Aside from the magazine too, they've hired me for a lot of writing, and that's been a huge gift to me to get to know them better, and also, I mean, just everything they know and everything they do for this community. It's like, if you've not been to visit Cookeville and you think, oh, it's a tourism department, I think I know what's going on. I would humbly say you only know a fraction of what they're doing and their reach and how hard they're working and how many days they're out doing photography and how they shop at local businesses. I mean, Shan and Tessa are patrons of local businesses, and I'm really grateful to know both of them, and it's been fun to have like this kind of cross pollination of work through the magazine and through Visit Cookeville.
Yeah, I mean, cross-platform marketing.
I love the cross pollination. That's adorable.
The new
and out in
term.
nature, so that's a great term for us.
No, but Shan, when we'd already decided you were going to be on the cover just because of everything you do in the community, but I did not know your incredible story from when you were born and the whole story about the fire, and then your young adult life as basically a celebrity on on the media circuit. And as a former publicist, it's really impressive because it's hard to get in those doors that Shan has gotten into. So start from when your mother was pregnant for you and with you and the fire that happened.
Okay, I'm going to give you the cliff notes on this because it's a pretty epic, expansive story. But my mother, when she was 5.5 months pregnant with me, she was in a fire where my grandmother died in that fire. This was a serious, tragic fire. And she had to jump out of the house, out of the window, and that caused her to go into preterm labor. And so when I was born, I weighed like 1 pound 6 ounces.
Wow.
And by being born, I was miscarried. Like I was not breathing. And my mother was so adamant to the doctor that he saved my life. He, I think just to appease her, gave me mouth-to-mouth through a straw, which resuscitated me for a little bit, right? I only had half a lung, so it wasn't going to do.
Your mouth was probably barely even.
Oh, I mean, I wasn't even as big as my own hand. I mean, like I was very, very small. So, I mean, I was just a tiny little fetus. And he gave me mouth-to-mouth through a straw, and my mother would not take a sedative to calm down. And she was just a mess, right? So she says, I'm not doing anything until you save my baby. So he got me breathing, and he said, look, if you'll calm down, because you got to calm down, I will send her to Vanderbilt if she lives to the morning.
And that was, where were you born?
I was born in Smithville.
Okay.
At the little local hospital, which years later, I worked there. I was their director of marketing.
Wow.
So got to meet all the people that were there when I was born that donated money to me, gave my mother gas money. I mean, like all these people that were about to retire when I came on board with St. Thomas, they got to tell me all their stories that I had no idea about. My mother never said anything. Nobody ever told me. But I did live till the next morning. But, I mean, basically the doctor told my mother, take this time to say goodbye.
Right.
But I made it, and so they sent me to Vanderbilt. I was in Vanderbilt for almost a year.
Wow.
And then they sent me home. Blind baby at home.
And you were blind.
And, completely blind. I had no retinas. And so it was one of those things, I started, as a baby gets older, you become a toddler, and you're toddling around, you're starting to walk, pulling up. I was hitting my head on everything, running into stuff, all that. And they said, well, there's this experimental surgery where she could see shadows, right? But she's young, and this is for older, patients, and so we'd have to make sure she could handle the anesthesia because she's so little. So they ran all these tests, and I was just flunking the test. I mean, whatever was going on, it was just like I was not a candidate. And they said, we've got one more test we can do. We're not real hopeful because she's not past the others, but we'll just try it one more time. So they booked it, came in, ran the test. My mother was out in the waiting room. You didn't necessarily go back with your child back then. And they came out and got her and said, could you come back here? And she thought, oh, no, it's bad news.
Oh, right.
So she goes back there, and they asked me to look into a little viewfinder. And I was talking at the time, and they said, Shan, can you tell us what you see? And I looked, didn't say anything. So my mother looks at them like, are you crazy? I'm like, she's blind as a bat, and the doctor said, we're going to walk out of the room. So the doctors and the nurses walked out of the room, and I turned to my mom and I said, that was a Christmas tree. Well, this was December. And it was a little black and white silhouette of an evergreen tree, you know.
Wow.
And my mother goes, what? She looked in there and she goes, she heard the nurse. It's December. You know, she's hearing people talk about trees. She just didn't.
Because how would you even know what a tree looked like?
Except that my sight at somewhere between the last appointment and then was coming back probably.
Wow.
Right? Mm-hmm. So Mom went home and she was working on sewing a button on my dad's shirt. And she dropped a needle, and we had orange shag carpet from the 70s. I was groovy. And Mom goes, oh, no, I got to find this needle because Shan's going to, you know, step on it, crawl on it, whatever, and I got to find it. And she was looking, couldn't find it anywhere. She was getting frustrated. And I crawled over, picked up the needle, and handed it to her. And she's like, oh, my gosh, she can see.
Wow.
And my mother said, you know, her faith came back to her because she had prayed so hard, you know, Lord, please restore her sight, please restore her sight. But you know how it is, your faith, even as big as a mustard seed, you have that doubt.
Yeah.
And so she prayed it, but not positive it was ever even possible, you know, especially with all the bad news. And then that was it.
And you could see a needle.
I could see a needle. I mean, and I can see perfectly fine now.
So you don't have any long-term issues from that at all? From being so preterm either?
Now, the only thing that my mother will say is that they also said that there was probably some brain damage from the lack of oxygen, having only half a lung, and that probably never cured itself. And I do the best I can. So she said that's just something we have to live with on a regular
made you
basis.
So special.
I'm special. That's exactly what my mother says. And I call her Smother because I think where I was born premature and she was so protective of me, I mean, my goodness, that woman smothers me with love and attention and no personal space whatsoever. She's adorable.
She is, and they are carbon copies.
It's crazy.
Of each
It's
other.
crazy. She told me what her mom did, so I went to look at on the website for what you know, her mom does tourism as well, and I went and looked, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I just stumbled into her somewhere, I'd be like, are you Shan? Are you related to Shan?
If your mother had red hair, it would be
yeah.
twins.
People mistake
Seriously.
me for her and they go, oh my goodness, Suzanne, what did you do to your hair? Which is not a good thing. And I'm just like, I'm her daughter. Oh, well, I mean, it's lovely, they'll say.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
So, yeah.
And your
pretty
mom
funny.
also has such a beautiful personality, just like you.
Oh,
She
more
came to the
so.
lunch party and
Very outgoing.
She's sweet.
yes,
Never
and
met a
she's-
stranger.
Where she works.
She's the executive director of the Smithville DeKalb County Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So she's in Smithville. So we're competitors now.
Oh,
And I mean, hardcore.
Watch out, Mama.
I know. So
she's like, I kept you alive.
I'm bringing it every day. And she's like, remember who your mother is.
Yeah, and I bet she was just so happy that you were alive that you being blind was. Oh, well, she's
yeah.
here.
Well,
you know?
and years later, I was invited to come on the 700 Club and give my testimony.
Yeah.
And they have to vet your medical records. You have to request all your medical records, and they have to prove that what you're saying is true. You can't just say, I was a miracle.
Right.
I didn't understand how, I mean, it took months. But I received 6 cases of medical records from Vanderbilt, and I got to read my medical records for the first time, and they called me a product. I was not called the patient. I was called the product. I was so underdeveloped, they had to put me in this category of the product did this today. The product just responded like this today. The product's lung capacity was this today. So I'm a product, not a patient.
That's incredible. And I feel like it's like the movie The Age of Adeline. Had y'all
Yes.
It's kind of like you. And you are kind of stuck in time because you age so beautifully.
Well,
and so does your
I
mother.
don't know about that, but my
It's a
mother
movie
has aged beautifully.
A movie about she has an accident and then she never ages again. Anyways.
Best accident
How does
ever.
one have that accident?
But Shan is a miracle. And then, so after all this happens, you became an illustrator of children's books.
Yes.
So go into that, how that happened and how you got on this wild media circuit.
Well, this is crazy enough. When I was 4 years old, I came to my parents and told them, I said, God told me I was going to be published before I turned 20. And they just laughed and laughed and laughed. That's the cutest thing they'd ever heard, this tiny little 4-year-old. And they're like, well, honey, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know. And I'd just go on about my day. And then every now and again, I'd be like, God told me I'm going to be published before I turn 20. And so I became like a circus sideshow act for the family. Like you'd go to get-togethers and be like, Shan, tell your uncle what you told us yesterday.
Right.
So they were just all like, ha, ha, ha. So the whole family knew that that's what I had said when I was young, because they just kind of teased me about it because I didn't even know what published meant.
Right.
And over the years, completely forgot about it, right? And I wanted to be an artist, and I was a classical pianist, so I was all in the art world. My brain kind of worked that way.
Oh,
And I had worked really hard at 16 trying to get some things published. And I know that sounds like, why would you be disappointed at 16? But that's where my goals were. I thought I can do this, right? So 16 years old, 17, 18. And at 18, I just kind of gave up. I was like, you know what? This is not going to happen, which sounds crazy. I know, because I'm an adult now. But at the time, I just thought, I've tried so hard. Don't think it's going to happen. And then at 19, I fell into a job illustrating a children's book for a country music singer, Ricky Van Shelton.
Yes.
He was top of his game at that point, top of the country charts. And I never listened to country music, so I didn't know who he was.
Not Ricky Shelton. Ricky
No,
Van
Ricky
Shelton.
Van Shelton, yes. And so I literally, because I didn't know him, he was thrilled to hire me because I wasn't going to be a fangirl. I wasn't going to be
Right.
drooling all over him all the time. I was just, hey, I'll do this job. And that opened up, it hit the bestsellers list. I traveled the nation for 11 years, doing a public speaking tour, book signings, all the things, and illustrated all of the books along that, other books. I also worked for the American Dental Association, illustrating their stuff.
Wow.
Just different projects across time, just a lot of different, worked for a major ad agency through that job. It was
Illustrating. You strictly did illustrations.
yes,
Okay.
strictly illustrations, but then the public speaking part took over my world because you would illustrate a project, then say you do a book, and then you have to promote it. That first year is very important. So you spend the rest of the year, you're not painting anymore, you're not drawing anymore, you're traveling. So every other day you're in a different city, and you're speaking and you're signing and you're shaking hands and you're doing radio and TV and all the things.
So what all shows were you on? Because I know you've been on a lot of national television shows. So which
Well,
ones were the biggest?
I've been on Good Morning America several times. The Today Show several times. Those are my big ones. The
those are the
700
big
Club
two.
was an honor to be able to give my
Right.
testimony. I have been on every morning show across the United States that happens at 4 a.m. Shows
I know
called
the regional ones.
Yeah, shows called Way Too Early and Wake Up Chattanooga. All
yes.
those shows. I mean, there were just hundreds of them. And you would start your day, like you'd wake up at 2:30 in the morning to get ready to be at the radio station or TV station by 4 a.m. You do, radio and TV. Then you start your day and you actually speak. So
Would you go to those cities in advance of a book signing or something, or just to promote the book that was coming out?
whenever I was heading to, like if I was going to speak to a group of people, it could be 200 people, it could be 10,000 people. You just never knew what you were going to get from city to city. Sometimes they would be adorable, and I call it the Mayberry Parade. They would roll out the red carpet, and they would give you the keys to the city and all the things. And then they would literally have a parade in your honor. I mean, like crazy stuff. And then
Wow.
you'd go to some cities, and it was just, hey, the dean of the college is going to take you out to dinner, and we're going to bring a few people, and it'd be kind of intimate, and you just never knew what you were getting into. So
It's such a parallel with my background as a publicist with the music industry, like the radio
Absolutely.
tours. It is very similar what you're
Absolutely.
describing. 'cause
Well,
we
and
were
I was
regional and
going to different places where Ricky Van would be performing, and then I would sit at their souvenir stand and sign books too, or I'd get
Wow.
on stage and just wave to everybody to help promote the book. I mean, just stuff like that.
And then did it morph into your story? And that's really what you were talking about, your story of how you were born and all of that?
When I would go and talk to the International Reading Association, so there's 10,000 educators. When I'm talking to them, I would give my testimony, but also tell the journey and then talk about, how to motivate students, how to talk about self-esteem, the fact that you can make a mistake. That's what erasers are for. Just helping people navigate how to talk to other people about failure.
Yeah.
Because again, started out blind, I have a different perspective of what's possible in life. That changes a person to know, how am I saying this project is not possible? It seems improbable, but that's different from impossible. So, I look at things and people go, gosh, Shan, you've done so many things across time, but it's because I don't shut the idea down. Most of them are ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous ideas to start. But then you start problem solving little bits of it until it becomes a real thing. And then you go, oh, that worked. But every now and again, you'll have a failure. But a failure is not really a failure because you're learning something from that. I mean, if you don't try, to me, that's a failure because you didn't try. You don't know what the outcome would be. But as long as you try, you've learned something and you can keep going and re-navigate until you get it right. I mean, that's just life.
I mean, isn't that wild that you were doing that for 11 years? So how many books did you illustrate? Approximately.
A total of, I think I'm at 11
Wow.
books.
That's awesome.
But then there were, weirdly, like audiobooks. Like back, believe it or not, this is how old I am. I did cassette tape covers for audiobooks. So I would illustrate the cassette cover back when they were
I just got
cassettes.
done. I just was a narrator called Bailey C. Bird in a children's book series.
Oh.
Yeah, for an
Love it.
audiobook series. Yeah,
I love it.
we've done three
So
of
see,
them.
I would have done the cassette cover back in the day.
We've done three of them so far.
Listen,
yeah.
I had cassettes when I was young.
Oh, me too.
so-
I inherited my dad's cassette collection. It was the greatest day of my life. He was like, here's CCR, here's Leonard Skinner. It's like, here's Chuck Berry, here's all this stuff. I was like, this is amazing. I've never had my own music before. Let's go.
Oh, yes. And then
Let's
after
go.
that, it quickly turned into CDs.
Yeah.
But
The
I
thing
digress.
I'm most grateful for is that my career, the height of that part of my career happened pre-internet. Like the internet was just becoming the World Wide Web. So you can't look up all of these television
clips?
interviews
Dang
or
it.
anything. I know because I'm so thrilled.
Really?
You
Because
had
I
some
want to
really
go.
big brunette 80s hair. I dyed my hair dark brown because I thought that made me look smarter.
Oh.
Right?
But because is it naturally red?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, my mother called it strawberry blonde because when I was born, my dad goes, I don't care if it's a boy or a girl. I just don't want a redheaded kid. So
Oh,
mom's
no?
like, it's not red. It's strawberry blonde.
It's amazing. That's phenomenal.
Well, it is kind of strawberry blonde. There's texture to
We're
it.
going with it. We're going with it. Don't tell my dad.
But I wish I could really go back because when I was Googling you after we decided you were going to be on the cover, I was trying to find.
Making sure I had no criminal record. I'm
Well,
sure.
I do have to do that.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
learned our lesson on that. So I do have, but I didn't do that. I didn't worry about that with you. I was trying to find these clips because I was like, wait, Shan was a media personality. I mean, you're a motivational speaker, basically.
Yes.
But,
Thank
yeah.
heavens. And everybody goes, why don't you just put it all on YouTube? No.
I wish you should do a highlight
I'm
reel
good.
if you could find those archived.
Yeah. I've
clips.
got VHS tapes somewhere in some drawer in
Do
my
you
home.
have photos at all with the
do.
hosts of Good Morning America?
I have,
Oh,
I
man.
have real live. Just we had to get the film developed. I mean, like I'm old.
We
Chelsea.
need to see those. You need to roll those out.
I wanna see 'em.
Seriously.
Oh, you're causing me a great deal of pain.
But I don't. People from around here probably that seems like you said unattainable. That kind of success being on all because it is very difficult to get your foot in the door on those national television shows unless you have some sort of status. So, congrats. Were you your own publicist or was Ricky Van Shelton's publicist kind of yours in the beginning?
Well, it was kind of a hybrid. We had his people telling me what to do when it came to his tour, but then I had my own people, and so
the
I had
publishing company?
yeah, so
Okay.
I had a personal assistant, but I also had kind of an image consultant from the ad agency that was kind of put in charge of me.
Wow.
So I had a lot of people kind of navigating me, and I learned a whole lot. I mean, that was
Sure.
that was the best education I've ever gotten was working. I mean, they were the top ad agency in the nation, but they were in Nashville. So
Oh,
they were
wow.
close to us, but I learned so much. It was great. And that helps my job every day now.
Oh,
I'm
for
sure.
sure. So did you, after the whole media tour, those years of your life subsided, or did you take a job back in Cookeville and that's why you decided to
I
settle back
decided
down?
to have a baby.
Okay.
So so then I decided to kind of turn right, and I opened a small photography studio. I thought, my sister had minored in photography. I was good at business. Everybody knew me. So I thought, I'll go into that field because that will help me be able to be home more. Because when you travel, you're just not home. And I didn't want to take a baby on the road. That was not practical, feasible, anything else. And so that's what I did.
Wow. And this was your son?
My daughter, Emily.
Daughter.
Yes, I have
She's
3
beautiful
kids.
too. She has 3 kids. On top of all the things she does, she has 3 beautiful children. So you juggle so much. And then, so after rewinding to after you had your baby, you became the director of marketing for the hospital, you said?
Yes.
In Smithville, where you were born.
I started out taking a role with St. Thomas. They actually called my mother first and said, hey, we're looking for somebody that would be good with marketing and blah, blah, blah. We're needing to kind of switch things up, local hospital. They'd have multiple hospitals, that sort. And she goes, really? She said, this is not nepotism. You need my daughter. And they're like, oh, yeah, we've heard that before, right? And so sure enough, they set up an interview with me, and the CEO was like, oh, my gosh. Yeah, you're what we need. You're here. You know everything. You have this huge marketing background.
Yeah.
You're what we need. So I took on that role, and then they wound up giving me 6 hospitals. So I did that, and did that for a decade.
And you had young children at the time.
Yes,
Okay.
which is, such a juggle.
Oh.
But I'm going to brag. I had multiple bosses at the same time. Like, you have a lot of CEOs you're working for, and just wonderful people, wonderful, smart people that I learned a lot from them, how to be a leader.
Yeah.
So again, everything you're exposed to, you can learn from and kind of just stack on top of your knowledge that you already have and build. That's how my career just has kind of navigated in a weird way. But you learn to lead, you learn to listen, you learn to be a good boss, because either you had a bad boss and you learn from them, or you had a great boss and you learn from them. You're learning no matter which way you go.
It's so true. And then in COVID, that's when you decided to take a step back from that world?
Absolutely, yes. I made it through COVID. I turned my office into the COVID call center for St. Thomas. So I funneled, at the end, I think it was 86,000 phone calls came through my office through COVID.
So you've learned how to manage the public.
Absolutely. and heard their stories. They would, get on the phone and talk to me like I was their friend, because they were trapped in their home alone.
Right.
So, but once I made it through that and we got everything kind of stabilized and the world kind of came back, I said, you know what? It's time to market something happy.
Yes.
And the position for director of tourism came up, and I interviewed for that in October. They called me and said, Shan, I'm sorry, our funding didn't come through. We were interested in hiring you, but we just didn't get it, voted through. So that was that. Mm-hmm. But then in February, I got a call, and the chamber called and said, are you still interested in that job? And I was like, what job? It had been a long gap of time. And they're like, director of tourism? And I was like, well, maybe. And so sure enough, they brought me in, and we started in the Visitors Bureau, and we developed my team of people, which Taylor Plush is over the visitor shop and now the Welcome Center at the Convention Center. Tessa Davis is our director of marketing. So she started out as a part-time cashier. 3 weeks later, she was like the fastest promoted person I've ever seen. 3 weeks later, we're like full-time, bam. And never look back. And we have just elevated her role until she is just invaluable. I'm like, I warn everybody, I know she's great. If you poach her, I will come for you. That's just all there is to it. Just do not take her from me. I need her. She's wonderful.
She truly is.
She is.
Such a great person, great friend, great part of this community.
And I did wonder before you took that role how anybody did that alone without a staff of people.
And I know plenty. My mother is one. She's a staff of one person.
Oh, wow.
And I know a lot of the chamber presidents, the Visitors Bureau presidents around the region. They are a powerhouse of one person. And I really try to help them any way they can when they come calling, because I know what it's like to have to have all of that.
Such an important job, because you're bringing tourism dollars to our city, which
lowers your taxes. That's the best part of my job. The better I do my job, the lower our taxes are. So who can say that much about their job, that everything that you do that's right is going to lower all your neighbors' taxes? It's a pretty cool incentive to do a good job.
Yeah, for sure. And I know Andrew has always just shouted your praises from the rooftops. So when we all decided that you're going to be on the cover, he was so excited to write your
Well, I'm a
article.
big fan of Andrew's as well.
Well, it was a no-brainer for everyone involved. I mean, like we say, it was an instantaneous decision. Okay, Shan's going to be the cover. That's perfect. Let's go with it. That's fantastic.
And, let's don't discount the fact that you put me in pink. Really? I mean, it turned out great.
Yes.
You were right. And I'm going to say that out loud, but I don't wear pink.
Listen, it was not my decision. Somebody told me, oh, this
Sure,
would look
somebody.
great. And then they were right. We got the photos back.
This is
and
the
I'm like,
most commented
wow.
on cover by far with people to me.
It's beautiful.
It's
It
the
is
most
stunning.
commented on cover for
That
sure.
is the only time I've worn that much pink. You
Yeah.
know, because I was in healthcare, so we had to do Breast Cancer Awareness Month for October.
Yes.
And I looked like I had the flu the entire month of October because I wore pink, and it is not flattering on me. So I don't know what kind of magic pink that is, but it did look good. And I
Well,
was like,
Shan
man.
showed up to the photo shoot already looking like full glam because she had worked a full day and she always looks perfect, Shan. I'm sorry.
Well, don't look at me today.
If you see me around town, I most of the time look homeless. Shan looks dressed to the nines no matter what. So she comes and she already looks, and I was like, I was like, oh, wait, we still have to do your hair and makeup because it already looked like it was done. But anyway, we did do one photo of you in your Visit Cookeville
That's
shirt
true.
with
That's
your
true.
own hair and makeup. But, I mean, you're just a delight always.
Yes.
We are so honored to have you as our current cover. Thank you for letting us put
Such
you
an
on the
honor.
cover. And just thank you for your collaboration, because I feel like without collaboration of people like Visit Cookeville and Mayor Randy Porter and everybody, our publication would not be successful at all. So we just appreciate it so very much.
And for anybody that doesn't understand the value of this magazine, go to other communities and see the comparison of what they're missing. This is a valuable resource. We use it as a tool, for visitors, because it's a wonderful, well done. You set the bar among other national publications. You did not set the bar at a local magazine.
Well,
And it shows. It's beautiful.
thank you. We want it to be nice so that people will want to keep it on their coffee table and not throw it in the trash.
Well, I'm so sorry if you feel like throwing me in the trash. I would take it personal.
If I see Shan's face in the trash, I will be
We're coming
personally
for you.
offended.
Although my friends have drawn handlebar mustaches on their covers, and
Well, you have to play around with it a little bit. Everybody does. But Shan, I want to touch on this really quick because I know you've worked so hard for the new Visitor Center, and that is one thing I always wondered. Why is the Visitor Center not off the highway in Cookeville? And I think it's going to bring so many more people
well,
to the visitors.
for the people listening to this podcast that don't understand, we do have a visitor's shop, which is a welcome center downtown on Broad Street.
Yes.
And we now have a new convention and welcome center right off exit 283 on I-40, Tennessee Avenue. So when you turn off Tennessee Avenue, you go about 20 seconds, and on your left, you're going to see this beautiful new convention center with a gorgeous welcome center. And so we've also got billboards going up all across I-40, navigating travelers to be able to get off the interstate, come see us, get free information, use our clean restrooms, and we're already booking the convention center for events. We've got an event coming on Thursday. We've been doing events all through Christmas, and we're booked all the way through 2027 for various things. It's crazy. So
Wow.
anyone who wants to book something, let us know. We'd love to support local things first before we start doing mass marketing out until the Southeast region. So let us know.
I mean, that we're so proud of you. I
Yeah.
truly don't know how you do it all, but I am so happy that we have this because I think it really will elevate just knowledge of everything we
Yep.
have in Cookeville so much.
It was
for
much
people.
needed. It's a dream.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Shan. And thank you again. Oh, and like I did with Randy, everyone, please, if we ever, again, get an office, this and Randy's and all the other giant covers will be
Wow.
there. And I know your husband, and let me ask you this. Did he get you a new one?
He did.
Okay.
He did. You have to know, Mr. Stout is like all or nothing. Like he's go big or go home. And so for my birthday, you had given me the extra
Yes.
cover. And for my birthday, he got it framed and hung it in my office. And I said, honey, I appreciate it, but you understand, like, I look like the vainest person on earth. I'm sitting here at my desk looking at a giant picture of myself.
Yes. He
And
needs to
he's-
hang it in his office.
Yeah, no, it's there now. So I'm just like my staff. I was like, guys, go ahead, commence the jokes. Here we go.
I love it. He called me during Thanksgiving and asked me about, some different questions. And he also took out a billboard.
Oh yes,
Congratulating Shan on the cover. He's
just
the
a little
best.
proud, just a little over the top. But
sweetest
I love
thing.
him. I think I'll keep him.
It is so sweet.
You should.
Well, thank you so much, Shan, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Shan.